So we're going to have to finish up this hypothesis test using the classical method, and then we're going to have to go redo some of the steps with the p-value method, because that's just how I feel like doing it. Now I stopped off here with this picture. So what are we going to decide? And the answer is we're going to not reject H naught because our test statistic, which was only negative 1.519, is not in the critical region. It's not in this little blue tail over here, which is lower than negative 2.109, or in this blue tail up here, which is positive, or greater than 2.109. Since we don't reject, that means that there is not sufficient evidence to support the claim that the new state quarters are different in weight, technically mass, but whatever, than the old state quarters. All right. So it doesn't mean that they are the same weight. It just means we didn't have enough evidence to prove that they were different. All right. Okay, so now we're going to redo steps 4 and 5. And I should have probably mentioned this before, but why do we only do steps 4 and 5? Well, it's because they're the same both directions, right? So all the other steps are the same, every last one of them. Only steps 4 and 5 are different between the two approaches. They're like flip sides of the same coin. Get it? Problem with the quarter. All right, never mind. Okay, so let's go to, oops, not that one. Let's go to this. There we go. Okay, so we found that these test statistics were negative 1.519 and positive 1.519. Then we got to find the p-value. Now, we can find it with Excel. It's not very pretty, but we can do it. And I've got it right here. It's t.2dist.2t because this is a two-tailed test. You have to tell it this critical value, or I mean not critical value, this test statistic, but you have to give it the absolute value because it only wants it to be positive. If it's negative, it's not going to like it. So you have to say, hey, take the absolute value of that test statistic, and then your degrees of freedom is 18 minus 1, which is D3, take away 1. And there's your p-value, 0.147. Poof, I had to think about it, but if you have old school Excel that doesn't have the same function mine has, you have to do tdist, absolute value of D5, like before, it needs it to be positive, then D3 minus 1, that's your degrees of freedom right there, D3 minus 1, and then you have to tell it this thing in the end, does it want a one-tailed or a two-tailed? Because we were a two-tailed, you're going to pick comma 2, and then press enter, and you'll get the same number, 0.147. Now all this kind of belabors the point just a little bit, don't you think? Yeah, I think so too. Let's look at Statcrunch, shall we? Let's shall. All right, so here are my quarters. I just have the data in here, and I go to Stat. Now this is T statistics, right? Because this is a T test. You go to one sample. You've got data on this particular problem, so I'm going to pick data. And it's going to say what data you want. I want the new quarters data. Next. What's your hypothesis? All right, I'm testing that it's different than 5.72. It's a not equal to test. No, I don't care about that. Calculate. And there we go. Look, p-value 1.47. So much faster. It doesn't do the classical method, though. That's the problem. It only does the p-value method. That's why a lot of people like p-value method better, right? Right. So let me go back here and let me bring that in. And let me go to my graph here. Let me just type in this value. Okay, p equals 0.1471. And there we go. Okay, so if that's the case and our p-value is 1.47, what's our decision? And the answer is we're going to not reject again, of course. Because if you not reject one way, you're going to not reject with the other way. I mean, it's as simple as that. But the question is why? So that was step 4. Step 5, do not reject the null hypothesis because p, which is 0.1471, is greater than alpha, which was, I think, 0.05. I don't remember. Yep, 0.05. All right, so we do not reject because of that. I think we're all set with that one. And hopefully you further noticed that it was a lot simpler using Statcrunch. And also remember that if you do not reject with the p-value method, which is very simple to get out of the computer, then you also will not reject with the classical method, right? And that'll help you kind of remember which one you're doing. All right, I'll see you next time.